PTV, oberoende, piratistisk media, skapad och finansierad av tittarna.
Hello. Welcome to yet another episode of PTV Global, the one show where we speak English for no discernible reason. Well, it's a little bit for a reason, I guess. Maya, how's your Swedish coming along?
It's fine. It's always been fine. But I'm not going to speak in the stream yet. Maybe one day.
I think
Maybe we can set that up as a sub goal.
Oh, that's good. That's a good sub goal. That's something to work towards. I don't think I've ever heard you speak Swedish either. Not like more seriously. Maybe like one word.
I have.
You should have showed up at the camp, the pirate camp last month.
Okay. Yeah, I really should have.
Yeah, I proved myself there.
I really want to say that. I really want to say that like it sounded really funny or something like that, but it was Finn Swedish. It was. We all had one of those friends who growing up, Mikko Miniven.
Yeah, it's like I think Finnish Swedish for Swedish people. It feels like childhood, and it's a good dialect.
Unless you sound really excited, then you sound like one of the Moomin Trolls.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I like it. It's that's out of the Swedish like foreign dialects. I think that one is cool. I like the most annoying one is the U.S. dialect of Swedish. You know, kind of like whiny Swedish. I
think the
can't
British
stand
one is worse. Varför dansar ni inte?
That sounds US to me. Okay. Maybe I have a problem discerning the difference.
Tony Irving, han är väl från Storbritannien, är han inte det?
Yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, it actually does sound a little bit more posh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I've heard enough like native Swedish, also like Swedish that I could try to emulate it when speaking, but I just choose not to. I don't bother.
No, don't.
You know, Finno-Swedish is just as real a variant of it, a living variant.
So exactly, yeah, it's a living dialect.
You don't get to judge.
No judgment. I was actually thinking, is there a Swedish dialect in Finnish? Is there like Swedish people when they learn Finnish? I guess it's not a whole lot, but when they do they have like a particular dialect that you would that's someone who comes from Sweden by the way they speak Finnish?
Yeah, more of an accent than a dialect, I guess, or
yeah, it's like more of an accent. Yeah.
Yeah, certain features. I mean, the Finns who speak Swedish or Finnish Swedish as their first language, they do, especially the ones for whom Finnish is like really the weaker language.
Yeah,
there is a specific kind of like lilt that they have.
How does it sound like? Does it sound? What would you say? Like, if you would describe it, is it like kind of tied to them being snobbish and stuff as well?
I can't really say. It's more that you can just tell that it's not their first language. So they might be just a bit slower and it's very basic, like they're just not as fluent. But Finnish Swedish, basically, it's very flat compared to, for instance, Rikssvenska. So
that was Swedish.
So there isn't much of a difference there in the general prosody or whatever. But
you know,
but you can tell that you can tell whether some people. But I'm not sure if I've run into many like actual like Swedes with not even like some ancestry or something. I probably can't remember like a Finnish learner.
No, it's not that common, I guess.
I have family friends where they have like both languages in the family, like one parent, but
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Speaking of Finland, though, majority of parties support banning use of swastika. How did this discussion come about again? We should ask in Finland.
Yeah, here we go again.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I put it up on the Trello as Finland with the swastikas again, since we've garnered some, maybe made ourselves a reputation in the past many decades. Since I think up until the very few like recent years, the Finnish Air Force had a swastika as part of like its official flags and insignias. Like they may have gotten rid of it in most functions now, but it took a while, and it was like a recurring conversation every few years. And
like, how can that be wrong when we
kind of awkward when like half the world was talking about it?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with this? Like, why are you clinging to it so hard?
Yeah.
But this isn't even about that. But we kind of have a recent history of receiving international attention for still displaying swastikas anyway. But this is like actual Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
Like actual Nazis doing a protest and displaying, actual Nazi flags. So we, unfortunately, apparently have those as well. And if I recall correctly, the flags were taken down during that protest, or like the police showed up and made them take them down, or maybe took the flags. I can't remember the details, but it took a while. Yeah, it says it there. 2018 independence demonstration. So it's taken up till now, almost 2 years for it to get resolved in the courts, and the court resolved to like not ban the use of the symbol. And I guess like this is a classic spot for the contrarian pirate opinion, to say that it's probably not the best idea or the most sustainable or effective measure to start banning individual symbols. Because I'm pretty sure all of this is banned, like very insistent banned in Germany, and I mean the neo-Nazis still have Nazis, so it turns out this isn't really a way to keep them out or stamp them out of existence.
No, I mean, in many ways, you can say it's important that people understand that this is on the rise. You know, it's like just outlawing something isn't really dealing with a problem. Obviously,
we have people in the streets,
like,
brandishing this stuff again. So it's definitely a discussion that needs to be had. There's this one kind of like there's this one Left Alliance MP in Finland. I'm not sure if she's interviewed in this one.
Yeah.
Who is kind of also known for being like a contrarian within the Finnish mainstream parliamentary left, who also had the shared this take that banning the symbol is not it's not the solution here.
No.
Like, obviously it's not a good thing that we're seeing these, but the ban is not a solution.
I mean, it's so incredibly hard. Particularly, you really need to. I mean, it takes time. I was just talking about Afghanistan. You know, like thinking that you can change a country in 20 years. You know, it's like these are education. It's a proof that our education system is weak. You're not really learning philosophy. You're not properly learning history. Probably, it's easy to get around learning that, and it's easy to doubt it, and you're not communicating in ways that people trust, and you're, like the voice of the elite or the power in the country has been corrupt or isn't, aren't being trusted at all. You've lost trust, and this is something you have to regain. And I think it's always convenient for the liberals to ignore the fascists and then slightly grow more fascist. and pretend it doesn't happen. And this is not the problem of our liberal democracy, or of the fundamental economic issues that a lot of us are suffering from, or stuff like that. It's but at the same time, I mean, it's really important to disrupt these movements, and it's not necessarily. I mean, I think the flag is always just a symbolic way, but what do you do? What do you do? Like it's not. It's a difficult question.
How another kind of worms, really.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that case. I'm not sure if the defendants or what they set up was there, but there's also been a kind of a parallel case of actual neo-Nazi organizations. Like one of them got banned, and there was a decision by the highest courts to dissolve the organization.
Mm.
But and that went through. But they basically just reformed under another name, and they kept going. And the police doesn't give a fuck when they show up in public places to demonstrate or give out pamphlets or the like. So it's kind of a whack-a-mole. You end up playing whack-a-mole with them.
Exactly.
So it's not a sustainable. It's good that they are being tried for this shit, but it's not alone. It's not a sustainable solution.
No, I thought this is a little bit funny. In correction with that, UK judge orders right-wing extremists to read classic literature or face prison. Benjamin from Alicia is a student who downloaded a white supremacist document given suspended jail sentence. Former students who downloaded almost 7,000 white supremacist documents and bomb-making instruction has avoided prison sentence by the skin of his teeth after being told to read classic literature by Dickens, Austen, Shakespeare, and Hardy. I mean...
What?
There's a lot of weird things here. First of all, why... Look, would this... If this was a Muslim extremist who downloaded, bomb reading material, are you gonna...
Kingland, I have a challenge for you. Can you please download some bomb making material so we can...
so we can try... So we can try it out, see what happens.
I rather see test Sapo. Are you gonna get raided or not?
Yeah, I of course, yes. What a great idea! I'll probably just get to read some more books that I like.
I'm sure that they'll believe you. Like when they show up at your studio, you'll just tell them like, "I was just testing you. I just did this to test you guys."
We're reporters.
Psych!
Kingland just has to get an utgivningsbevis.
Psych! I'm actually an anarchist. Then they're gonna fucking kill me on spot.
Psych, I'm actually a journalist.
Psych.
Yeah, that's when you get banned. Like, once you admit to that, you get banned.
But I think we should start the anarcho-communist party in Sweden. Are you ready? That name.
I'm not gonna start it.
It's gonna get us raided right away. Hey. But I mean, there's one...
If I'm gonna start a party, the acronym is gonna be NSDAP, 100% for the memes.
100% for the meme. Is that also gonna be a part of the name?
Maybe. For the memes.
For the memes. Yeah, NSDAP for the memes, and the FTM is like the shorthand. Oh God. Anyway, I mean, it's a little bit weird. I don't think a Muslim boy would get the same chance. But given that it is, I quite honestly believe it's pretty. This is so typical. I mean, we're talking to so many people here as well. They haven't learned history, right? I mean, to tie it together to a little bit what we're talking about. They are just incredibly ignorant about a lot of the things that happened, or they don't trust what happened, or they
then again, referring them to just some like Western or like Anglo canon stuff probably also isn't the solution to this.
I mean, Dickens, Austen, Shakespeare, and Hardy is hardly what you need to read. Probably some of the modern historians who would actually, I mean, which all of this has gotten a lot better in recent years, where it isn't so Western centric. I mean, what we got taught, I mean, even I got taught as a kid, is an extremely one-sided way of seeing and watching history, and it's not that strange because we all obviously grow up where we are, but it's a very West-centric way of understanding history, and it's quite ignorant to, you know, it's very easy for us to skip the parts where, you know, that wasn't actually made by white dudes, you know, essentially. Which I think is also one of the most fun things to see. I mean, I think one important thing to see is to study, say, the racism of the 50s, right? To study the history of far-right movements as well, you know, and understanding, you know, like, they completely hated Catholics in US. I mean, the big war used to be between Catholics and Protestants, you know, like... when Kennedy was elected president, he had to go in front of, like, you know, he had to go in front of a judge, what is it called? Like, he had to go to Protestant priest and tell them that, you know, like, that he was, you know, he was not going to take orders from the Pope. You know, these Catholics can't trust them. And obviously the South Europeans, they were not, like, the idea of whiteness, for instance, is something that was created against, in a way, as in contrast to the categorization of black or non-white, right?
Yep.
And but even that sort of concept is so obviously socially constructed that I think it becomes indefensible at some point. I mean, that's some important history I think you could study if you, you know, that may be slightly radicalizing at least. But
I think that's still kind of optimistic.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe the bottom line here is that probably if you're that far down the rabbit hole, a couple of books probably won't be enough. Like, regardless of what those books are, it won't be enough to bring you back.
No, you need friends, man. Hey, bro.
Yeah, you need to interact with people. You need to participate in society.
Yeah. Let's stay in Finland for a little while we're here.
Yeah, sure.
Finland is reacting too late to the climate change security threats. I mean, I don't think Finland is particularly alone on this. But
yeah, that's all of us. But at least now, for a little bit, we're talking about it again. There's this Institute for Research, basically on international affairs, and a specific researcher there called Emma Hakala, if I recall correctly, who is interviewed in this article and who is probably behind this report.
Yeah,
she's been at this for years now. I'm familiar to some extent with her work, and it's been like helpful also in like learning about and understanding the climate crisis and its implications. Like it was a new thing for me when I first heard about her research about framing the climate crisis or climate change as a security issue. Again, it's on the other hand, it's sad that to get some sectors of, I don't know, some places of institutional power in a society to listen, you have to go the security route. But on the other hand, if this can get them to listen, maybe, yeah, it's a good thing that someone's doing this.
No, I mean, absolutely, but it's horrible, you know. I mean, it's such an indictment of our whole system, and that we're still not doing it. What's nearly enough is absolutely horrible. And now that it's starting to be like, oh yeah, hello, this is this is now a national security issue. It's like you see, and so horrible little, right? Even so, I mean,
even the US, its military apparatus recognizes this. Like they have massive reports on climate change as it's one of the main factors, or maybe the main factor that they are taking into account going forward. This is just that huge.
Yeah, and actually, it kind of segues as well.
They actually have to, reckon with reality.
Yeah,
a lot. Whether whatever your opinion of what they mostly do, regardless of that, they at least go out there and do something and have to do some kind of strategic and planning beforehand. Or I mean, given what's been going on in Afghanistan, you can probably question that as well. But at least in someone there is at least thinking about these things. Whether they get listened to is another thing, but it's basically their job to stay on top of this kind of very real implications, a very real constraint to their activities.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the fun thing, right? You'd see you'd see the military act independently because they have to deal with reality; they can't ignore it. And you also see, the insurance business just not insuring shit or just raising. It's like everything is changing, Like we said before, we have it. We are here now. And we have actually 5 short news that I want to take on this. I mean, I'm not sure they're really news, but big increase in weather disasters over the 5 past decades. The number of weather-related disasters to hit the world has increased 5-fold over the past 50 years, says the World Meteorological Organization. So, weather-related disasters has increased 5-fold over the past 50 years. There is absolutely no way you are going to say that that's just normal, And it's important to say that yes, the climate has changed. Some, but if it's so to say a natural change, it typically doesn't happen over fucking 50 years. This is more as if an asteroid had hit the planet. It's that sort of speed. We're talking incredibly, on the scale of the planet, an incredible fast change of both temperature, but also a lot of these metrics. But we don't have to stay there too many. Some 30% of the global tree species at risk of global extinction is another report that came out these days. Which is quite interesting because you don't really normally look at trees and think they'll grow extinct, right? Or at least it's not. We normally look at, we're losing I don't know how many insects every day permanently right now. And there's a huge killing of our animal species.
All forms of life, not just the animals.
Yeah. Exactly. And in this case, they particularly looked at trees.
Yeah. We're basically at war with our life support system, and we're winning.
We are winning so hard. No, and I think biodiversity is incredibly important, right? Now, it's a lot more important than we may think. At a certain point, when a certain segment becomes herded too thin, there's a lot of other support systems that starts collapsing. And this is happening right now at local levels, because obviously all of these things are quite localized, which also makes it hard to somehow measure, why is the desert spreading? There's a lot of different reasons for that, right? Or I'm just taking an example, hypothetical example in this area. Is it because we've cut down a lot of the trees? Yes, definitely. But is it also because this particular worm and this particular thing is actually had fled here and it's no longer native? It's complicated things, right? And at the same time, a little bit more related to us, and this is again has been done before, but it's important to note: air pollution is slashing years of the lives of billion. Report finds dirty air is a far greater killer than smoking, car crashes, HIV/AIDS, with coal burning on as the leading cause. Coal burning is a principal culprit, the researchers said, and India is worst affected, with average citizen dying 6 years early. China is cutting 2.6 years from people's lifespan.
Yeah, this is a good example of the distortion. Just the people's general ideas or estimations of risk, like what is actually killing us, what is likely to kill you,
Exactly.
what is actually a threat to your life or your health.
But you know, the goddamn immigrants!
Yeah, terrorism.
My God! Imagine! We're gonna all die. Actually, I'm gonna show you this. We got a comment on one of our videos today. Speaking of this.
Well, you're getting engagement.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're getting crazy engagement on our videos right now.
1000% increase.
Exactly, it's actually measurable. No, but I mean, people are. I'm happy. We have some viewers. I mean, we're obviously streaming. No, we don't stream to YouTube anymore because we're getting banned from there all the time. But
why is that though?
Copyright strikes, and they won't tell us why. We're not big enough.
Actually, they probably just see the Pirat.
Exactly, and just
move from there.
Bye bye. I honestly don't know, but yeah, I'll find it here. Let's see. It was pretty fun. Jesus Christ, what do people say? It's like, there we go. I'll open it. So we got someone here saying, and this is like a video about a pretty stupid article that wasn't really about. It was about Breivik, right? Because there were a big, obviously, right-wing outrage over the fact that people were actually remembering the 70 ex-people who were shot dead by this fucking terrorist, right? Actual terrorist. I believe, and this dude is saying, I believe we need more like Breivik in Sweden now. We need to get rid of all of these fucking immigrants. Sweden is destroyed and needs to be saved! Exclamation mark, right?
So of course it's this kind of person who finds your videos.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we get so much hate. Speaking of that as well, it is actually, we're not really supposed to be streaming today. It's funny, but we've had hate raids happening quite. I wouldn't say frequently, but it happened a couple of times, and particularly on YouTube. Whenever we get so to speak exposed, it's incredible, the hate in the camera, and people are legitimately terrified. I mean, this is the thing that people are absolutely horrified about: immigrants, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, like it makes you tired just to think about. Like this dude can be so fucking passionate about killing immigrants. I mean, it goes to say how strong racist beliefs are. The same comment appeared in Myra's latest stream. I'm pretty sure to the letter same. In Myra,
so it's just low effort.
Yeah.
Spamming. But it's funny since they're just giving like comments basically just to promote your video on YouTube. So they're just doing a favor basically.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see kind of the sort of grassroots activism where people are committing their lives. A lot of these people. I mean, these are real people who are committing their lives to this cause. You know, like, and they're really terrified. They really believe that Sweden is we're getting replaced. You know, they're completely bought all of this stuff, and this is the one threat, right? Which is, it's a little bit of a contrast. Like, let's just say there's a lot of things that you could maybe put your attention to that would be a little bit more helpful. Anyway, I was a little bit of under nature. Let's see. let's talk about video games. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do what we're supposed to be doing on Twitch.
Exactly. Actually, we're supposed to not stream today.
Fucking
Yeah,
normies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've now situated ourselves amongst the bad people, basically.
Yeah, we are horrible for not supporting, or rather for supporting hate raids now. No, it's not like that. I mean,
yeah, I mean, there are many discussions to be had there, and I support the people who are doing it, but I mostly hope that whatever networks or organizing has been done I hope that there's been some network and community building behind the scenes to organize this day of Twitch. And I hope that somehow carries on to some future actions, or maybe further organizing towards something that Twitch is actually forced to notice.
yeah.
I mean, one day they'll barely notice it.
Yeah. It's a real problem. Like, have you been here during one of those bot raid attacks?
Don't think so.
I'm not sure what they can do to stop it, apart from starting to IP ban people, which is, you're starting to ban VPNs and shit.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the bot raids operate. I haven't looked into that much. But
there are a couple of different ones. But there will be like 1 billion people all of a sudden starting to follow you. And then they will maybe unfollow you and follow you again and if you have notifications on it, just completely, or if they're able to say things, they will spam your chat with racist stuff, whatever stuff. Like, it could be anything.
Yeah, I have the general idea of what happens when they show up, but the way they are organized realized that I haven't really looked into.
Yeah.
But I completely believe the people saying that Amazon or Twitch just doesn't give a fuck and aren't willing to actually put in the effort to look into solutions or
I don't know,
any kind of design that could prevent some of this.
I mean, I think what you could do is that you could, for instance, I know that I'm not gonna get 50 followers that quick, so you just allow X amount of followers during a certain time. Maybe you could give that as an option to people. But you actually have a lot of tools to mitigate this already. To be honest, you do. You could turn on emoji only chat. You can turn off the chat. You can turn off notifications. I mean, after a while, you kind of get used to that. Okay, I mean, I have buttons here that will turn off all of the notifications instantly. And then we would just raise the chat to sub-only mode, right? And to be honest, I don't even ban all of the bots that join us because it's just they will be found out by Twitch. So I mean, at some point we had 3,000 followers, and then the day after we had like 1,200 again. They just made a massive bot purge.
Yeah, don't waste any time on that. Twitch will have to deal with the problem because they don't want to do anything about the real problem, that it's too fucking easy to create an account.
Yeah. That is absolutely one of the biggest issues. And this is the issue. They should make it harder to create an account. I absolutely agree on that.
And for an example, when you create an account, you can watch and you can take, but maybe you shouldn't be able to comment on 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, we have a 10-minute delay before you can actually post your first comment. You need to have that on. I see a lot of streamers who don't have that on, And then those raids are gonna hit you hard, because then they can follow and they can comment right away, and that's gonna be hell. Hell is gonna break loose. So
I find it possible that they are more systematic if they are actually targeting certain people or certain types of content.
oh yeah, they definitely are. Like, I mean, this happened to us after we got that tail of right-wing dickheads around.
Yep. But this is a recurring thing. There was the thing with the PogChamp emojis. It's a recurring thing. It's a trend, and that's why I think it's always a good idea to. It's good that people get riled up and start thinking about like what they can do or what we can do collectively to work against this and
Absolutely.
to put pressure.
But
against them. But, we just need to do that, do some of that thinking and make that effort far more often. And creators just need to organize.
exactly.
This is always the answer.
Organize.
We need to organize to be able to collectively put any pressure.
We should create our own.
Our economy is built. The whole one of its main principles is that like everyone is replaceable.
Exactly.
There's another reason why this like blackout day is kind of it doesn't feel productive. It kind of feels like doing the thing that these hate raiders are trying to get us to do, to just disappear off the platform.
Yeah.
Stop taking the relatively small amount of space that we take right now.
We need the Creators Anarchist Union. But
there have been attempts at that.
Yeah, several.
They probably haven't gotten too far. One of the nice things that, or like good takes I saw floating around about this is that we should probably, the same way we say Activision Blizzard instead of Blizzard, we should be saying Amazon Twitch, just to keep that on everyone's mind. Like, we're literally making money for Bezos here.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we're his happy little workers, and he's getting 50%. You know, like I mean, of course, the platform costs us money, but definitely not that much. I also, yeah. Anyway, let's watch this. Actually, this is I got stuck in the weather again a little bit over the climate, but I want to watch this.
The reason you're getting strikes on YouTube showing all these clips.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, actually, it's SVT. I know it's particular when we are showing the Swedish public service.
Yeah, similar, they do that as well. Like, they're apparently like somehow contractually obligated to just file a takedown request of content that's uploaded without permission anywhere, like without any kind of consideration.
Yeah.
Horrific to see this. It's horrific to see this almost unrecognizable from 1 year ago.
Few glaciers in the world have been monitored as long as this one. This picture dates back to the early 1900s. Since then, Piteå Glacier has receded 3.5 kilometers. Dr. John Pomeroy first stepped foot on this ice in 2008. He came to better understand the hydrology of Piteå Glacier and its neighbors, but he never imagined it could melt away in his lifetime.
I was horrified. We're basically seeing the glacier disintegrate very rapidly before our eyes. And I think we'll be documenting the end of this glacier over my career now.
A summer of unprecedented heat has not been kind to the iconic ice in the Canadian Rockies. Glaciers here were already on a rapid retreat. This season, the ice melts are the highest ever recorded.
The distance between my hand and my foot is the amount of ice melt we had in just 1 week.
Wow.
We could lose about 7 meters of ice off the glacier this year.
An increase of about 2 meters over the last few years, and the hundreds of burning wildfires, making it even worse.
So a lot of the soot from the wildfires has landed on the glaciers and darkened them up. and then the algae and the bacteria and viruses start growing on this stuff, and it darkens the glacier. And you see where it's accumulated here, the ice is melted faster than where there's less of it over here.
Just 13 years ago, this lake behind me was covered in ice. But what's even more astonishing is if I were to be standing on this surface 60 years ago, I would have been 200 meters higher.
I call the area at the top of the glacier the graveyard because that's where the glacier goes to die. That's really where we see the fastest change, the most change. It's melting really fast, it's changing really fast, and it's very depressing.
Piteau is part of the headwaters to the North Saskatchewan River, a life source for so many across the prairie provinces.
You know, it's not impossible to imagine if we're losing ice at the rate that the Piteau Glacier is losing ice this year, that our rivers would run dry in August or September. And this is like grievously serious for the future of life on the prairies. The world as we know it is being transformed as we watch.
This is not just affecting water supply and irrigation and hydropower, it's affecting the very nature of the Canadian Rockies and what they are. It's very sad, I think.
Dr. Pomeroy projects Piteau will be gone within a decade, yet another casualty of a changing climate.
We're reaching a range of conditions outside of which our species developed. And so I hope we can preserve all of this.
Jamie Daw, Global News.
Yep. That's a little bit more of a local story, but it probably has huge implications for the whole area, obviously. Scary shit. Now let's talk about computer games. Let's get back to it. I think it's so funny that these... maybe we should watch the video. What do you say? This is Reuters. This is fine. Let's start with China.
China may have united teenage gamers and stock market investors. Both have reacted sharply to a move to limit online game time for the under-18s. Beijing announced the move on Monday, saying teens would only be allowed 3 hours per week. The move is intended to strengthen controls over society, which leaders think has become too free and easy. Young gamers were furious. Some said the move would derail budding esports careers. One, calling himself Mr. Zhu, said the move would anyway backfire.
I don't think the new regulation makes any sense. Although it aims to help teenagers, the less you let them play, the more curious they'll be.
Tuesday saw gaming stocks take a hit. There were falls for US-listed NetEase, Japan's Nexon and South Korea's Krafton, maker of online hit PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Though Chinese giant Tencent ended the day over 3% higher, after analysts noted it had already introduced limits on gaming by minors. Investors say the worry for the industry isn't about an immediate hit to revenues. One told Reuters it's more about whether Beijing could stop approving new games, as it did for a while in 2018. Another said the curbs could mean fewer teens get the gaming habit, hitting revenues in the long term. Some Chinese parents might think that would be no bad thing.
Okay. Right. Nice. Yeah. Useless video, actually. But it was interesting what that dude said. He's saying, do the government really want us to spend time finding out what's happening in the real world?
Yeah. People, like, they might be underestimating the amount of people worldwide who are using gaming as a sedative right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a coping mechanism and a way to escape.
Yeah. And I mean, it's worth to note that this comes in an effort of China to they put several of the most famous people I'm not sure they've disappeared, but they've been erased from the history. They're no longer listed as part of movies they've been a part of and stuff. There's quite a few who've done big oopsies. And also they are clanking down on corporate leadership that they think have been too cocky and people who've earned too much money, essentially. And they want to kind of equalize. They want to raise the income for. They want to equalize they're targeting the income inequality, or the fortune inequality.
Yeah, let's first talk about the video games. But I had a couple of links.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Things about China, probably related. So China is cracking down on a lot of things, as they want to do. I think I just said like we can talk about the video games first, but
yeah. Oh yeah. Let's do that. That's true. I'm jumping back and forth
again. Speedy Raccoon, Sonic.
Exactly. Jesus Christ. There we go. Actually, let's take the opposite news. Which is so weird that they happen on the same time. Korea
so while China is instituting these restrictions, South Korea is finding that their restrictions haven't been a good idea and are outdated and just mostly probably not doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Which is what bans and many like poorly thought out restrictions tend to end up causing. But yeah, the interesting thing here was, for me, that somehow a law that bans children below 16 years from playing online computer games during the night, from midnight to 6 a.m., had somehow led to Minecraft being age restricted. And the age restriction was 19. So I'm wondering if the article here, or if we're missing something, if the law was about more than just the time restrictions, since it's kind of hard to see how it's not readily apparent why it would lead to games having such a higher age restriction than the law actually has. It's not like Minecraft is something you can only play during the night, right?
Nope.
I also found it just amusing in general that Minecraft would be registered as an adult game. I mean, I can see some justifications for that.
Yeah.
You can make it make sense. You can come across all kinds of shit when like diving into the mods and just public servers. But still, it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, but the fun thing is that in some weird way it's correct, right?
Unsafe for work. Unsafe for minors.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely unsafe. I don't know. It's kind of funny, but by doing this, they in a way they kind of hit the right game to ban. Like that is one game that can get you really fucked up.
I mean, arguably Minecraft wasn't too great on like Notch's mental health and life trajectory, I guess. So if we're looking at that example, maybe this is justified.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, both of these stories are weird to me.
A few other points, like some good points actually, regarding the Chinese ban in particular. It's been interesting, first of all, to see like shocked reactions or criticism for this from some people or some corners of the internet, the political or ideological corners of the internet, who usually have a hard time finding wrong in anything that China does, or finding any issues in anything that China does, who are now getting upset over this one. That's probably a true one of those true gamer moments.
Yeah. I mean, it really is, because if you're a tanky, right, this is the first kind of tanky move they have been doing in a long time. This is a true authoritarian. They're just strengthening their power across the board, and they're trying to educate the youth to be more useful and productive. I mean, this is like classic authoritarianism.
Yeah, the way people use their time, even in a very direct way. it's actually pretty draconian, probably like even compared to like most of the stuff that the West keeps like gasping about when it comes to China. So this probably should be receiving some attention. Also, some good points about this. The fact that they are going for time limitations instead of like scrutinizing the industry in general, like its practices and the way the business works nowadays. Just game development basically being geared towards, at least in these big studios, towards making things as addictive as possible, and all this predatory with all these, the addition of this predatory microtransaction and other similar payment models, basically directing people to use more time on the games and also eventually spend more money on the games, and having either just straight up gambling or gambling that's veiled or hidden to various degrees.
Yeah, I mean, there's another aspect of it, definitely.
So it's kind of interesting that they are moving. There's probably been enough of a commotion or enough of a moral panic or enough attention on this that they felt that they have to do something about it. They need to be seen as doing something about it. But they maybe aren't too keen on like actually cracking too hard down on the industry, or maybe like doing something that might actually crash their revenue streams, because they are making a lot of money after all.
I mean, do you think that the Chinese Communist Party is thinking like that? I kind of doubt it, actually. Like, I don't think... Like, or at least my theory is they're building a nationalist state. They are close. They want people. They're like the fact that they're doing this together with a lot of different regulations that is meant to limit people's social life.
I don't think those are mutually exclusive. If anything, China has proven that, like, some of the shittier capitalist tendencies and also some of the more authoritarian tendencies don't exactly cancel each other out. They can even like reinforce each other.
No, but I don't think that's the case. That's probably the point. I mean, if you wanted to maximize capitalism right now, you wouldn't attack so many of the businesses and the business leaders. I mean, it will hurt their economy, and it is going to make. It is going to turn a lot of the... it's going to mean that a lot of those businesses are going to have a much harder time operating, and they're going to be much more cautious. So I think it's like... then again, I mean, it's worth to note that it's a kleptocracy, right? So, I mean, this obviously doesn't really... If you have party members high up in your board, it's fine. Do whatever you want, right?
One argument I saw was that the time limitations might even end up... like they might incentivize using more money to because many of the models are also pay to win. So in order to get the kind of advancement you want, or the kind of accomplishment you want to the game, when you don't have as much time anymore to put into it, it might incentivize them to like burn more money on it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I don't think that's why they would do it. Like, I think in the greater, but that's just my thinking. My guesses.
Still something that it's not hard to think of when considering the possible consequences of a decision like this. But so it probably has crossed someone's mind, but they didn't let it bother them. They they just don't care enough.
Regardless of what, we're running out of beer. I thought it was funny. I mean, let's start with the running out of beer. Weatherspoons becomes latest brands to suffer shortages as supply of some beers are not. This is actually not funny. This is a much more serious thing. But UK has stocks shortages of a lot of different things. But it's not just UK and it's not just Brexit. The shipping containers have increased in price, almost tenfold. And it's getting increasingly hard to ship things around the globe, and the queues are getting longer and longer. And as we're facing yet another variant of the virus that risks being more and more resistant to the vaccine, or you can get sick again, this is a very frail chain, which almost all of our products depend on. That are,
This might be a good moment to plug our. There is a separate channel on the Discord for PTV Global, or should probably change it to PTV Int, or which one are we doing?
Actually, that's true. We're a little bit back and forth. I said Global.
Channel. So if you are in the Discord as well, dear listener, please show up and please throw things at us to discuss. To bring up. This is something that the supply chain thing was something that did come up there recently, and it's global. Some places such as Britain, like the UK, apparently are getting hit harder for obvious reasons, or hopefully obvious reasons. The Brexit fallout is still not over, but the same issues are everywhere. Like, we're part of this same frail system.
Yeah, absolutely. They actually have a list. I thought. I mean, and the problem is when the supermarket shelves start looking empty. I don't think, we're not really used to that, right? I mean, just remember the toilet paper shit.
The thing is, we have people posting these images on social media and going like, "Oh, this is a communism simulator."
Jesus.
Like
Christ.
the amount, or the lack of self-awareness there. This is society we are living. So are you saying that this, in fact, is communism?
Yeah. I mean, this is the very fucking opposite. I don't know how you can go any further from the very opposite, right? Right here. But I mean, it's a trial. I mean, a lot of our supply chains are weak by design, right? I mean, we buy things and throw it away, and we don't care where it comes from, and we buy the cheapest things. And I'm not saying necessarily you, but there's a lot of middle hands that makes a lot of money on your ignorance, right? There's not a whole lot of brands, companies that actually exist either when we're talking like foodstuffs, for instance. It's not a lot, and everyone wants to run just-in-time production, which means you essentially try to avoid having stock. I mean, for good reason. Stock costs money.
Just-in-time and other kinds of optimization, so-called optimization, to reduce redundancies, reduce any kind of perceived slack in the systems, when it turns out in situations like this that having those redundancies and having some extra there might come in helpful in times of crisis.
Yeah, absolutely.
If one loop in the chain basically goes under, if it fails, you can find someone else to replace it, or who does something that's close enough. But if you've optimized all of those alternatives, or maybe if there's only so little competition left in the sector that there is only one company doing a certain thing, and that one starts fucking failing, or they start fucking things up, then the whole chain is fucked up.
Actually, yeah, it happens much faster, at least. And I mean, this is also a part of something that is a part of that is a good thing, which is essentially that we are reducing the number of distributors that actually exist, because we you know, like there is a way, there's a part of it that wants to reduce the middlemen between you and the factory, and there's another part that tries to kind of resist that change. And the problem is that you have these huge Amazon, you know, like Amazon is a beast of, you know, that just owns everything. And I mean, it's interesting things. The whole retail space is changing. It's going to be completely different. You know, like all of these things, how we ship and store and everything is changing. At the same time, I hope that we can learn to build resilience into the system. And I also at the same time I know that we are not. There is no money in doing that.
Yeah, that's a key word, resilience. That's what we're paying with, basically, in like redundancy and complexity and diversity also. Those are what resilience is made of. And when we do away with those things, we lose the resilience. Obviously, the system can adapt, but many of these so-called like optimizations that we've been trying to do or build this all of this stuff,
Klingland.
Hello?
Kolla röstkanaldumpen.
Okay, we're speaking English now.
Yes, but röstkanaldumpen sounds silly in English.
Okay, the voice channel dump. TLDR on the food shortage, the video, maybe we could...
Well, I think the Harvard Business Review article from 2019 is a lot more interesting about deglobalization, but...
Yeah, let's have a look at that while we're talking about it in the background.
Yeah, notably this was written before the pandemic. So
yeah. So this is a fairly famous. Well, she's become a lot more famous because she's obviously been talking about deglobalization for a while.
I can vaguely recall reading this. So yeah.
I'm gonna say goodbye for real tonight and not just be in the background. See you guys tomorrow.
Not just be in the background. But I will link it here for you, because I don't think we're gonna go through and read it all, actually. But I'll post it as well in the Intresseklubben along with the video. Maybe we could watch the video. What do you say? TLDR is normally, it's decent short versions for things. Let's do it. Or not.
This video was brought to you by our book, Brexit, the Colouring Book. Go through the whole timeline with images and a TLDR summary in our 3rd edition book. And get 25% off using code DRIVERS. The link is down below. So, as we know, Johnson got Brexit done at the start of 2021, with the UK officially leaving the EU and entering into a new relationship with the Union. Things started okay, with many of the major fears not emerging, and things continuing broadly as normal. However, things have started to shift.
Let's go and watch that in like 440p.
With empty shelves becoming more common, supermarkets warning of major shortages as we head towards Christmas, and even
Oh my God, what's wrong?
Restaurants.
Internet is having shortage too.
Unable to get enough food. Something we reported on our Instagram last week, which you really ought to follow us on. Anyway, we wanted to unpack what's going on here, and why some, even the Daily Mail, are calling for some major changes. It's worth starting this video by highlighting the extent of this issue, especially for people outside of the UK. You might hear stories of empty shelves in Britain and assume that shit has really hit the fan, but that's not quite true, although that's probably because fans are out of stock at the moment. No, seriously, the majority of British stores are pretty full, but this is still a growing concern because of how supermarket logistics work. You might imagine a pretty straight line between a friendly farmer and your supermarket shelf, but in this modern world, that line isn't as straight as you might think, and that farmer is often a faceless corporation. Horrifying edits aside, the point is that tons of products are stored and stockpiled in warehouses and cold stores across the country, and that's how seasonal foods are available year-round, except for the mythical cream egg, obviously. It's in these warehouses where the issues are starting to emerge, because while your shelves might still be packed, the Confederation of British Industry recently reported that stock levels in Britain's warehouses had reached their lowest levels since the CBI began surveying back in 1983. In fact, Asda's head of logistics recently remarked that the company was only just keeping their head above water. Co-op's head said that food shortages were the worst he'd ever seen, while Iceland and Tesco both warned that some families could see Christmas cancelled. Add to all of these calls, the chief exec of the Road Haulage Association warned that supermarkets are already reporting that they're not receiving...
Sorry?
That's a good one. It's so bad that Christmas is cancelled.
Yeah, exactly. Christmas is actually cancelled. COVID cancelled Christmas. Oh my god, it finally happened. The communists won!
Their expected food stocks, and that we are weeks away from gaps on the shelves, with him warning that the disruption could extend beyond Christmas, raging on for at least 18 months. So what's causing this issue? Well, many are pointing their fingers towards disruption at the European border, and more specifically, the impacts of Brexit. Now, you could argue that this isn't a Brexit problem, instead caused by other factors like the pandemic. In fact, you could even show me pictures like this, where French supermarket shelves are also barren. The only issue with that argument is that these French shelves are normally full of British goods, and the rest of the store is completely unaffected. In fact, every country across Europe and around the world has had to deal with COVID, and yet shortages like the one we're seeing in the UK are pretty unique. So what's actually causing this disruption? Well, the common answer you're going to hear a lot of is a shortage of HGV drivers, the people who actually get the goods into your stores. The UK is currently experiencing a major shortage in HGV drivers, with estimates suggesting that there's a shortfall of about 100,000 drivers. Naturally, this is significantly impacting the country's supply chains, with some even speculating that the army could be put on standby to pick up the slack. Hiring new HGV drivers is proving difficult too. In July, ministers tried to counteract this issue by allowing existing drivers to work more hours, but many argued that doing so not only risked driver safety, but also made recruitment even harder. Something the RHA described as nothing more than a sticking plaster. Instead, many companies and industry bodies requested the government relax working restrictions on EU citizens. And this isn't a wild idea, really. The government already has...
Oh, so they don't want to do Brexit now. They realized. It's so funny.
It was kind of inevitable, really.
I mean, they. I mean, it's just funny. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Everything is so stupid. This is really...
Yeah, it went on for so many years. Like, all of these were, like, explained to death before it happened. And, like, in all phases of the process and the negotiations, people saying, exactly the stuff that's being described in the video is going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to be out of food. We're going to be out of certain medicines. We're going to be out of workers.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so clear ahead of time.
Yeah.
Shortage occupation list, a list of jobs which the UK currently needs filling, and if HGV drivers were added to the list, then potential EU drivers could avoid post-Brexit immigration rules. According to industry bodies, this could tempt back the estimated 25,000 European HGV drivers who have left the country since the beginning of the transition period, warning that if they didn't, then supply chain disruption could push up prices and drive inflation for customers. Despite this pressure, the government resisted, maintaining post-Brexit rules. They did, however, encourage people to recruit new British drivers, with the business secretary telling business leaders that bringing back European workers would only be a short-term temporary solution, and instead insisted that with the UK's furlough scheme coming to an end on September 30th, there's likely to be more people looking for work soon. The government has also said that they will assist with training and apprenticeships to get Brits back into the driving seat. But not everyone's convinced this is enough, especially in the short term. Both the National Farmers Union and the Food and Drink Federation urged ministers on Friday to introduce a COVID recovery visa, which allows foreign workers in the UK to help the country bounce back from COVID and the economic impact of the last couple of years, with the chief exec of the Food and Drink Federation warning that food inflation could be between 6 and 9% this autumn alone if rising wages and supply chain issues drive up the price of getting goods on the shelves. However, the government seems unwilling to follow all of the business world's advice, sticking firmly to its Britain First approach to the driver shortage, and not letting additional EU workers in. Interestingly though, Labour seem to somewhat agree. Their business secretary, Ed Miliband, accused the government of being asleep on the job and failing to prepare for this issue. But crucially, he hasn't called for EU workers to be allowed in, instead insisting that rather than passing the buck to businesses, ministers must take urgent measures to recruit and train workers to fill the gaps. Ultimately though, this issue extends far beyond just Brexit. This might be one of the first manifestations of the impact of European workers returning home, but they only make up part of the shortfall. A further 70 to 80,000 people with HGV licenses in the UK simply choose not to drive, with many dropping out due to complaints surrounding work conditions, stagnating wages, and the serious health implications of the job. Brexit may well have exacerbated this issue, but it's clearly one that needs rethinking, EU or not. So what do you think? How should the government react? And how do the Tories prevent food inflation, which would not only hit the poorest in society hard, potentially increasing poverty rates yet higher, but also protect their reputation with voters as strong with the economy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Before we finish, if you want 25%
interesting.
of our book...
Well, we'll see what happens, but I mean, this global logistic issues is you know, it's also hitting. I mean, right now you're seeing a world that actually thinks that it's going to go back to normal. I think a lot of companies are preparing to buy. You know, they're thinking the vaccine is out, and you know, we're seeing some really, really worrisome news that that's not happening. And there's a lot of investments. There's actually a lot of going on, which I think also leads to this, right? To the last few months here, but yeah, this can be a huge backlash if we get a really bad Mu virus, was it? Moomin virus, Lilla My virus.
Yeah, the amounts of like different factors, like stuff that we're used to assuming will work pretty much the same way all the time. Like so many of those have been thrown out of whack that the unpredictability is just too much for our current system to handle. And there may not be like, it's a nice dream, like this idea of a normal or like the pre-COVID normal, but at this point it seems kind of overly optimistic to assume we're going to go back to any of that.
No, but I mean, we have flushed the market with money, and it just wants to get used right now. Like the rich are incredibly wealthy at this point, and the investments. I mean, you're still thinking the stock market is going to go up. Everyone is buying. It doesn't matter if you can sell anything really. It's all about making sure that you know it's an incredible possible bubble.
Zero negative interest rates everywhere.
Yeah,
for everything. And that was that had been going on for several years, even before.
Yeah. Anyway, let's jump to this, which is actually kind of positive, right? Talking about China's regulation. This is something we've been talking about a lot that we need to do. Something not exactly like this, but similar.
Yes, we could have started. There was another link on the same card.
Oh, okay.
Like an overview, kind of tying this one and also the gaming stuff together.
The hell did I do?
So the Chinese government has been really busy with all these crackdowns on several major industries.
All right. There.
Yeah, that's the one. So there's a whole list, 14 points. E-commerce companies, social media companies, financial fintech, fan clubs and celebrity culture. This is an interesting one. Maybe we should find out, like, we should dig up what that's about and look into it. Because fandom is always a fun topic.
They want to crack down on it. I was checking
the
up.
Politics of fandom. Yeah. And high-income individuals who avoid taxes or make excessively high incomes. Well, that's textbook communism, I guess. Touring and education companies, private schools, gaming companies, ride-sharing, car-hailing, bike-sharing, and powerbank sharing companies. Companies that want to IPO in the US, companies that make heavy use of algorithms, cloud computing firms that sell services to state and party organizations, Bitcoin miners and crypto exchanges, real estate companies and landlords, private investment funds. So, I mean, when compared to the most of the so-called West, I guess China has been playing pretty rough and like big with regulation even before this and in general. But I don't know. I understand that you've also done some business and spent some time in China. So could this be seen as some kind of a turning point or some kind of an end to possibly some of like the freer market experiments that have been going on there during this period of growth?
I mean, it's way too early to tell, right? But I think it marks a pretty serious shift, and it looks like, you know, I was listening to them talk. I mean, the way that they have changed their tune about this is pretty hard. Like first of all, Xi Jinping is nationalist as hell. I mean, he's telling he's going to cut the head off these Western imperial dogs if they ever say anything. Like, you know, it's a form of nationalism that is equaling Trump's, right? From the leadership, in many ways, and they are. I mean, by effect, I'm not sure if you remember, they kind of nurtured Jack Ma. Like they've been doing this ever since Jinping. Any one of these leaders that have any, you know, like had any critique,
Jack Ma was just the one that we heard of here in the West. So.
Yeah, there are several, right, who've gotten stumped in different ways. And this is an extremely broad way to kind of crack down on anyone. You should only look to the great leader. This sort of fan culture of other people are not good, you know, and you shouldn't be paying too much computer games. You should do all of this and all of these risky businesses, you know, speculative businesses. Needs to be harder regulated, and we need to care about income inequality, right? Because this is a big issue. They're starting to see that as a big issue, and I've been saying that for a long time. You know, that if China is serious, they need to deal with that issue. Because it's fine if the richer gets richer, if everyone is getting richer, but for how long is that going to work out? It's not going to work out forever, and you need to continuously make sure that the poor people get it better and better and better and better. So this is probably a first sort of step in a closed China, right, where they're also starting to deal with these fundamental economic issues that they have, and they're no longer expecting, you know, just ever continuous growth, they are expecting economic problems.
Right. That was a shift, I think last year maybe, or maybe early this year, in like one of the like the higher congresses or whatever the term was for like the annual congregations for the high leadership or the main chamber. I can't remember. I should be more well read on how the political system that works. It's probably really interesting, but basically one of the like main sort of outline papers that even like China watchers look to when trying to figure out what they're up to, like they actually nixed the expectation of growth for either last year or maybe this year as well. Like they may have been may have explicitly said that like just staying where we are is fine, or like even some like decline is expected, but like it's even up there in like the official highest of documents that they're fine. They're recognizing that like growth might be over for a while now, and we're going to take that into account and deal with it. So this kind of makes sense in that context. This is a current trend actually that I've seen many people also say, that actually just reading what the higher leadership or the elite there is saying, like what they actually put down in writing, it gives you a pretty fair understanding and idea of what they intend to do. Like they actually mean what they say.
Yeah, absolutely. China is pretty easy that way, particularly.
Many Western media, for instance, and just the general Western narrative tends to miss that, like, there is this massive, like, mystification and, like, somehow, like, it's probably some, like, residual or, like, just straight up, like, good old Orientalism there, that, like, there must be something more to this. Like they can't mean exactly what they say here. Like there has to be some game they're playing or something that we don't understand completely. When actually, apparently, often the official documents make a lot of sense, even when compared to what they compared to the actual political actions that are taking.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things they do is use, I think this is interesting, about algorithms, right? Is it really neat? Users must be provided with a convenient way to see and delete the keywords that the algorithm is using to profile them.
Yeah, this was interesting, since this might be, I haven't had the time to look into the proposals, or like the whole, like, at least I think it was like half a dozen different law proposals or acts, as they call them in the US, that they're fielding to tackle big tech, basically. Do they go the antitrust route? So one of them may have had something about recommendation algorithms, or at least interoperability, which may have some tie-ins to this like algorithm regulation as well. But yeah, we haven't really seen much of this yet, I guess. Like actually on the level of the law or on the level of legislation, taking some kind of a stance towards trying to affect the development, I guess, of these individual pieces of technology. Like the general wisdom has been that that's something better left for the private sector to figure out. Like those are not the guidelines we're supposed to be setting. But this is basically kind of going against that, and that's also another reason why it could sometimes be a good idea to actually look to China and like try to see try to see past whatever preconceptions you have and pay attention to what they're doing and what's going on there, since they are, if nothing else, they are trying, going ahead, and they are with and trying a lot of things that the West hasn't really gotten around to doing, or has for the longest time been like principally opposed to doing. And and I'm not just talking about like actual human rights violation level stuff, but just regulation like this. Like this has been on the table. Like this is something that we've been discussing for several years, as the public has been waking up to the issue of big tech and like remembering that, yeah, maybe there is something we can do about this, and maybe we should be trying to do something about this. So this is an opportunity, I think. Or this could be an opportunity to...
It could be, but it's not.
What comes out of attempts to directly regulate, say, certain types of algorithms.
No. Yeah, interesting, actually. That's quite a lot of news for tonight.
Do you have the details open? Like, we didn't go through them, I think.
Which ones?
Yeah, the recommendation algorithm.
Yeah, here. Oh, you want to go through them in depth? Here.
Yeah, there was just to, or maybe our audience is already like by default familiar with all of these questions, but still,
you could read it if you want to.
There's been so little discussion of this, really. Like, I followed the discussion for a bit, and there's been, I don't know if you agree with me. Or the rest of you here agree with me, but there's been very little discussion because it's such a, like, we don't really go there much, like talking about the specifics of how the tech should be done. Like, there are a couple of big NGOs, but they usually focus on like just telling the legislators that no, this is absolutely not the way you're supposed to be doing this. Come up with something else. But it's been rarer, at least up until the past couple of years, basically, to have like proper like whole proposals of of alternatives, basically. So this is interesting to me, at least. So
yeah,
what they bring up here, yeah.
I think we were ultimately talking about it a lot, but I think
like convenient way to see and delete the keywords that the algorithm is using to profile them. That's probably something any pirate can agree with.
Yeah.
Just more transparency and more user rights. Providers shall not record it. Oh, that's an interesting one. Keyword algos can collect. Given the stuff we know about how social media censorship works in China.
Yeah, users must be informed that algorithms are being used to recommend content or products to them. You need to inform. They must be allowed to opt out. A little bit similar to what we have in Europe, but probably more widespread. This is the algorithm themselves. And see non-personalized results.
Yeah, that's a really like...
And this one...
important one, since basically that would mean that every single, like the way, for instance, that Twitter still has the chronological feed, unlike most social media, like mainstream social media platforms now, in addition to the algorithmic feed that's nowadays the default for everyone, like all the platforms would have to go back to or implement this completely bare bones feed, where you don't get any personalized stuff. You could take that pretty far. Just imagine only getting chronological, completely non-personalized, non-customized feeds.
Yeah, and I mean, I like this one. Providers shall regularly review, evaluate, and verify algorithm mechanisms, models, data, and application results, and may not set up models such as inducing users to indulge or consume in high amounts. The algorithm recommends service providers shall adhere to mainstream values, actively spread positive energy, and promote application. I mean, this is typical.
Typical China, yeah. Positive energy. That's
positive. I think it's so cute.
Funny. Like positive energy, good energy levels.
Yeah, well, they talk a lot about this, and I've been doing for a long time, and it's really working.
I think that is at least there must be like the word harmony must show up somewhere.
and civilized. Or
it's just not in the ones like the quotes that this person is making, but it has to be somewhere. Or have they moved on?
No, harmony is still big, I think.
Yeah.
Every 5 years they change. It was civilized for a long time. 文明的橙子.
Yeah, there are some entire glossaries of like internet euphemisms, and one of my favorites was using the internet scientifically. It was about some kind of restriction or regulation that forbade using the internet in a certain way or like for certain purposes, with the exception being scientific use of the internet, which was...
I'm scientifically masturbating to this.
Yeah,
but porn has actually been banned across China for a long time.
I'm researching the Western degenerate sex work industry.
Yeah, but that's good. I mean, that's quite a lot. To be honest, there's a lot of things happening actually.
It's something to keep track of, and
absolutely,
at least to take notes on, like whatever the consequences of that end up being, like however it ends up being implemented, and what the changes to the I guess the internet and app ecosystem there end up being, at least like the pure text of this is something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. But good, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
I'm gonna go eat.
Almost all of it.
I think there was one thing I skipped because it feels like drugs in Europe.
Yeah, there's drugs in Europe, and then there's like EU trade deals. Basically, maybe in a similar vein to the link that Henning brought to us about deglobalization. So there was a political article of Europe's glory days of trade being over, which is probably actually good news for many parts of the world, or could be good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have much to say about this besides just, this might actually be good for many parts of the world, given the EU's tendencies, or just these so-called developed countries' tendencies. We also have here to basically strong arm other, third countries into trade deals and arrangements that are actively like unfavorable or just unbalanced.
Yeah, this is a pretty good article.
Yeah.
Politica has sometimes they're so bad though. I don't know. I can be so pissed with them because they're trying to do good articles, and it's just this one seems pretty good. I'll link it for you, chat. But yes, it's definitely related to all of that. It's interesting to see, though. I often in these cases they'll say, "Oh yeah, but they're trying to point out that these young people who are protesting about the climate is a huge influence on these deals," and it's kind of not. I think it's worth to say that they, together with the nationalist parties, are changing this, right? I mean, you gotta remember there is another faction that is pretty big there.
Yeah, climate youth are amongst others, and also the nationalists aren't the only ones in favor of protectionist, or at least like less globalist or arguably less imperialist politics. It's also the left, but the left is just conveniently forgotten by most of these.
No, but
media, especially mainstream political media. So
that's what I think they were actually saying. Like they're doing the trade deals is no longer just about keeping German car makers or French farmers happy. which was often challenging enough. EU trade officials must now also please young climate marchers, union leaders, and human rights activists.
Imagine
that, but it's also not true.
Unprecedented. Imagine the rest of society.
Yeah, but they don't give a shit. Like, this is just false. This is like one of the big problems. This is just a lie. Like politically, they really don't.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Despite its many, the young climate youth movement has made a difference in these few short years. Like, they made a difference. They shifted the discourse to some extent.
Yeah, but the discourse has always been like the discourse doesn't matter.
Politics haven't changed that much.
Yeah, and it's not changing. I would say the only reason why it's changing now is because you're having nationalistic parties. Like, the real shift in Europe isn't that there is more left-wing seats who are critical to this. The big difference is that there are more right-wing seats who are critical to this. I mean, that's the fundamental political difference, and that's why, which I think you should be a little bit honest with in those articles, at least, because you kind of sugarcoating this as something that is positive, and that the politicians are listening when that's just really not the case. And you're also like, it can appease.
Yeah, even if the public pressure has had an impact on certain decisions, the actual policy making is increasingly being done or more strongly influenced by these nationalist right-wing parties. So, and with as with legislation, always, who actually gets to choose the wording that are used, and who actually gets to work the details, they have the most power, or they have a lot of the power. So yeah, it's interesting framing here. Like, it's nice to recognize these recent developments, I guess, as an influence, or at least this resurgence of the, civil society as part of the discussion. But the thing is, it's always been that a part of the discussion to some extent, and it should be part of this discussion. So they must now also please the whole rest of the society is kind of a
And I don't like it when media does this, because they do it all again. And this is like my critique against the media. They're essentially running the liberal arm. They're patting the young climate activists on their head and saying, look what you did. Look, you made a change. You made 50,000 articles. Look. Yeah. And it's like, but the reality here is that it's about power. And how many seats have that movement gained? You know, the green movement gained in the last 20 years. Like, what block? Who are deciding this? And that's it's the same way that every young generation has been dealt with us. You get your medal. You're doing so good. Yes, good. Go away. I mean, you're gonna grow up and you're gonna become a shit liberal like me. You know, and then the youth movement always like, oh, look at us, we did it, right? And sooner or later they'll realize, like, you know, it's so easy to stop there.
They're pretty up to speed on this. Like, they know that it's all just talk, or most of it is talk.
Yeah, and
it has been made, but it's not nearly enough.
Yeah. And
there's another interesting thing in this very same paragraph. Increasingly unwilling to sign off on deals that the Commission has struck with politically unpalatable partners like Beijing's Xi Jinping and Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro. Because, there are, these anti-China sentiments or these anti-globalization sentiments in different parts of the political spectrum.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't.
But when it comes to China, for instance, in many countries, the nationalist right has actually been sort of like flirting with China, or at least displays this, like they might talk big about this, some kind of yellow scare-ish liturgy or whatever, but in reality, they are actually sort of working on starting some collaboration with them.
Oh, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Again, also from reading what NATO is producing and reading what the US Army is producing, that the next clear enemy, the next war, that's China. That this is the target. Like, and so, I mean, this is really this is both the liberal. I mean, this is the neocon. And the neoliberal, again, like they kind of agree on this. This is the next. This is our enemy now. So, yeah, again, like lifting that is weird. Like you point out, right? It's whenever there is some you know, some sort of you know, oh, look here, the climate movement, they're saying this, so that's great because they're a good movement. So we're also saying we're going to do this because the climate movement. Right, and we're listening to the kids. I mean, this is like the liberal. This is like the liberal master play. This is like the Democrats in the U.S. and it tends to be the middle, the in power middle majorities, liberal majorities of our Western democracies. They've been doing this for so long. In a way that it's an art form, and it's a little bit tiresome when newspapers buy this shit up, and they keep publishing this narrative, and yeah, no, they don't give a fuck, dude. Like, they really don't. Only when it kind of suits their interest, right? But anyway, it's a little bit beside the point, but it's and look, to be fair, I don't think any youth organizations necessarily have bought it. It's just like the problem is that the majority of people buy it. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter if the youth organization says, I'll spit on your medal. I don't need your medal. I want your... It's a spectacle, right? And the media is just going to run those errands. They're going to publish articles like this.
Yeah, most of it's not everywhere, because just like the strike movement is massive, like it's all over the world, and in many countries it's like more centered, or like it operates like it's not centralized. There isn't like a strong national level organization for it, but it's the local groups that do most of the stuff and have some kind of a structure to cooperate and communicate. And I know that, for instance, already a couple of years back, I believe the Portuguese climate strikers, they had some of the local unions join in to support the climate strike. This was a couple of years ago. So the unions aren't as like detached or disengaged as they are, for instance, here in the Nordics, everywhere.
Yeah. So I mean, if you get massive general strikes, things can actually and do change. But when there is just a group of, like, if it's isolated to students who doesn't produce anything, it's difficult. Or when it's just one sector, right?
Yeah, this is to say that at least in some countries or some parts of the world, there has been some bridge building or solidarity shown or maybe some ties or connections between the youth climate movement and these more traditional forms like organized labor activism or just organized power in general. But it's not everywhere. But besides that, in many countries, the most involved activists, the ones who ended up getting a lot of visibility and like going places due to that activism, many of them have like ended up bogged down in or sort of ended up in NGOs or some form of very tame lobbyism instead of this movement building or mass organizing. Unfortunately, that seems to have been the trend, but it's been a couple of years. Many people have gone through that ringer already and maybe found out that for themselves that they can't really, the change doesn't happen that way. So it might be that in the sometime in the near future, we are going to try the mass organizing route again and try for collective power.
Yeah, I mean, it's destructive, violent power to a certain extent does mean things, but you need to really hurt business interest, and that's the problem. Mm-hmm. And when I say violent, I don't mean resistant, like really, and it's different. I mean, it's so fucking difficult to get all of those players in one place, particularly when the discourse is so divided. Like, I saw this. I mean, and it's such a great post. There is no adherence to the idea of classes anymore. So it's incredibly hard to, and everyone is just the way that we identify is so destroyed. And I mean, even like, and it goes over all of the things. The way that how we identify as Zoomers or millennials or whatever, that is even dangerous. Like, we are identifying on lines that are supposed, like, and boomers as well, right? I mean, like that sort of diametric. When you're using it, you should be a little bit careful about how you're using it, because people get drawn on these sort of lines as well. You know, men versus dude, and all of those other things are often used to separate groups that have a lot in common. And it's difficult as hell, you know, to do it. It sure is. But I think, you know, I mean, one of the positive things is that there is at least two, you could say, tech-savvy generations that are kind of going through the similar things, at least, you know, with some form of understanding of the internet. Which... you know, you never know, right? And like, obviously, regardless of what, at a certain point it becomes too bad, and then then people will revolt. You know, like, that's just. I mean, that's not like when the shelves go a little bit more empty than you're seeing them go, and people don't have food to eat. That's pretty crazy. I mean, you don't want to be in that, but that's definitely gonna change things.
Yeah, there comes a point.
Yeah. That it does. Anyway, that's such a dark note to end on. What the fuck?
I mean, we still have the weird raccoons.
Oh yeah, please. Oh, that's so
we have
good.
some eye bleach to end up on.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, it's here. Oh my god, I wouldn't have ended on that note. What a dark, horrible note. Jesus, what is this even? Oh, they're so cute. It's like a raccoon who fucked a fox or something.
Or like you stretched a raccoon, like took hold of the nose and the tail, and like...
They get cross, look at that. Mommy! No.
Abandoned. Nature is dark.
Yeah.
And dramatic.
Oh no. And they're starting, oh, scary. She needs to take care of them. Anyway, Massey. Or he, goddammit, what do I know. Actually... Yeah. But that's good. I'm gonna post that in ViddyaGames later, where you can also go. But don't forget to upload some news to the PTV Global one if you have some that you find. Tomorrow is just a normal day.
Yeah, please do our work for us. Give us some news so we don't have to look for any.
It's so annoying. No, it's fun. But actually, we're getting a lot of good news tips from the Discord server, so please get in there.
Yep.
And we'll see you tomorrow and PTV Global again next week at 9 o'clock. Bye-bye.
Bye.
PTV, oberoende, piratistisk media, skapad och finansierad av tittarna.